point is, they were extraordinary animators, and we did films without pencil tests.
Like Irv Spence and Virgil Ross.
Irv Spence, Virgil Ross, Manny Davis, Manny Perez, you know, virtually the who's who of the animation short business. Even some Disney assistants who came over were really animating that never got the credit at Disney. You know, a lot of assistants animated for years at Disney never got the credit because the guys just didn't give it to them. Now, they did those films without pencil tests. Now, that's hard to believe because in your days, everything was shot in 5 minutes and you see everything. But we did storyboards, I timed them, I did the storyboards, and the guys animated it, and I flipped it. We didn't have the money for pencil tests. Now, that was, so the kind of job that these guys did was unbelievable. Everything you see on the screen was first time, no changes, only time. Now, you have to understand that's pretty remarkable. Someone's been asking me to come back and do stuff. I'm trying to decide what that would mean. You know, all my animators are dead. All the guys, not that I killed them. They're not directors on Shrek 3 and Shrek 4. I mean Shrek. But the guys that I love are dead. They're all gone. So I kind of felt I worked for them and they worked for me. We all loved each other. I mean, you have to understand, it was a different kind of business than it is today. We sat in large rooms, we talked, we hung out, we drank a lot. I mean, a studio was more social, was all on paper. Everyone was helping everybody. It was kind of a different atmosphere. And animation wasn't a big deal. We were like, no one wanted animation, so no one cared what we were doing. In other words, no one was watching us. It wasn't a big budget. No Jeffrey Katzenberg's running around. You know, studios didn't care. So it was a whole different thing. More artistic, I would think. Better. More beatnik, more bohemian, you know, more jazz playing all day. Now it's more cubicles with guys staring at the student screens. I don't know what that means, but the computer is amazing. So that's one of the things. Go ahead. What's your name?
I'm David Duncan. I got a couple of young guys here that are starting off making some films.
How old are they?
15 and 16.
Okay.
And they've made a couple of shorts, and they might be interested in knowing, you know, when you're starting out, how do you find inspiration? Where do you get started? That kind of thing.
Okay, first of all, to the school, Sammy?
Yes.
I did a film at the comic convention, 20 or 30 minutes, that's put on YouTube, for young kids and how to start and how to do it. Why don't you talk to Eddie and get a copy of that?
Okay.
Okay, it answers way more in depth what I'm going to say now. You can show your kids that.
Oh, thank you
Okay.
so much.
First of all, I'll start here. In my day, which is good, you needed, my entire Bashki Productions today is in a box on someone's desk in the room. Because I did some animation. In other words, my entire studio, which consisted of ink and paint departments, in between departments, Oxbury camera rooms, all right, color model rooms, animators, assistants, and betweeners, editors film, and all of that stuff, special effects department, were all separate departments, you know, housed by lots of people, a very large space, all with an overhead. All of that is in a box. Everything and everyone ever hired is in a box, which means you could make films today by yourself. In other words, where in my day, we needed a laboratory to develop the film. We needed live film. Everything is very high cost. If an animator wants to shoot a pencil test, which is see what he animated, he gives it to a cameraman who shoots it, just as expensive as shooting the real movie, which then has to be taken out of the camera, sent to a lab, developed, sent back, the guy looks at it. If he wants to change anything, he goes, changes it, they shoot it again. It goes to a lab. These are expensive, time-consuming moves. You guys don't have that problem. You shoot a pencil test immediately at your desk. You check the timing on the computer. You can do anything you want. Which means that I think instead of worrying about what studios are going to do for you, or what Jeffrey Katzenberg film you want to sell, I don't see any reason for 5 or 6 guys not to get together in units and make their own films. I mean, if you send your wives to work if you have to, you know, take a year and starve to death. But at the end, you'll have your own movie. I mean, there isn't anything that can't be done in that computer. They used to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. You guys could do shadows. Well, I didn't have shadows on Wizards because we couldn't afford it. I didn't have enough money to finish the picture. So I had to use live action rotoscope. All these things, Max, how do you combine live action and animation together? You know? Well, you could do it in a machine in 2 minutes. It used to take us optical houses, wedges. It cost a fortune. It cost $5,000 to $8,000 a shot to get live action behind animation. You could not afford to do this, and that was Disney's power. Disney's power was to add all the money, to spend all the money on their guys, and no one else could compete with their quality because you couldn't afford to. Now you guys can do anything you want. So I'm very, if I was working today, that's what I would do. I wouldn't work for Terry Tunes or anything. I get a bunch of guys together and make my own films. I'd start with shorts, I'd learn how to do it, and I'd work up with it. Now, what kind of films do you make? What kind of films do you want to make? I mean, what kind of films do you make? You make films that are different from what everyone else is making. You make films that mean something. I mean, if you're going to, there's so much in Hollywood, right now, in Hollywood when I work, there's a hit. Wherever the picture is, it's 42nd Street or something, you walk into the studio, you want another 42nd Street. All they want is last year's hits. It's very hard to do anything that's original. So, I think the computer, and I've been laughing at the drawing on that plate, which is disgusting. I don't know how you get any sensitivity.
The Wacom tablet.
What?
The Wacom tablet.
It's worse than that. I don't know, I don't get used to it, but I guess that's part of what you have to do. I miss paper, I miss the sensitivity of paper. I forgot what your question was.
Oh, just about what inspires you and what would help them get started in deciding what to do and how to do it.
What inspires, I'm talking to all the guys now, what inspires you is your life. Let me be very clear. What should inspire you, I'll tell you what inspires me without me realizing it, okay? What inspires you is what you love. I don't care what it is. What inspires you is what you look at. What inspires you is what you hate. What inspires you is what you get angry at. What inspires you is what music you love. All you have to do is look to yourself and not worry about what they are doing. I mean, that's the whole point. In other words, I was a big jazz fan when I was young, and I loved photographers, and I loved painters, and I endlessly looked at this stuff. I love cartoonists and all cartoons. So I started my own things, that's what I looked to. In other words, all my music tracks, so I'm saying what inspires you is what you are about, and not to be ashamed of it. If you dislike your father because he shaves up in the morning and makes noise, do a cartoon on it. If your girlfriends don't treat you right, do a cartoon on it. If your mother screams at you and you can't stand it, I did a cartoon on my mother, and she never spoke to me again. I'm saying, what you love is what you make films about. That is what filmmaking is about. Too many filmmakers are looking for the project or the idea, and they spend their lives chasing their tails. Or they have nothing they love. I mean, if you don't love anything, if you don't like jazz, if you don't like rock, if you don't like the desert, if you don't like this or that, then you're pretty, I don't know, you're a television director. What I'm saying is, I always look to myself. Now, when I look to myself, I had nowhere else to look. My education was weak. I didn't like Disney. Not that I didn't like it, I was soaring. I lived in a very poor neighborhood. We couldn't afford to go to the movie. So when Disney came through, who could afford 30 cents to go see a cartoon? So we did, so I wasn't inundated as a young man by Disney. I didn't grow up a Disney feeling like all my animators were. All these guys were sitting Terry to talk about Disney until I couldn't stand it anymore. All I wanted is, Heavy Traffic and Coonskin, Coonskin's a very well animated film. Traffic and Wizards aren't well animated. They're very meagerly animated. The budgets were very cheap. We went through it very fast, but they have soul, heart and soul, and they're different. The live action backgrounds in Heavy Traffic came about because I couldn't afford to paint backgrounds. But I did love photography, and I knew what a good photograph was. So I said, well, what if I use photographs behind these characters? They're cheap. I just take a shot, put it behind it, I'm gonna spend, And those, so when if you know art, and if you study art, which is very important, if you study photography, jazz, music, painters, When you start animating, you start falling back on something other than animation. All the guys fall back only on animation. Warner Brothers and Disney, I'm so sick of those conversations. And they're still having those conversations. I watch all the blogs today. My friends, John Cristalucci, and all these guys are great guys, but they're still rehashing the same thing they were talking about in 1956 when I walked into Terry Tunes, Chuck Jones, Two Frames here, Disney this. I mean, what's his name? There isn't a Disney animator who would have taught me how to do heavy traffic. There isn't a Disney animator who would have taught me, for what he did, how to do Coonskin or American Pop. If I had studied those guys and loved those guys to death and just looked at those guys, I wouldn't have done those films. I would have ended up like the rest of the guys trying to do what those guys did. So what I'm saying is I'm a great believer. That doesn't mean that's going to make your life easy. People will throw you out of offices. I'm not giving you the easy road. I don't know what kind of road I'm giving you. I think when I saw Frisk the Cat in Heavy Traffic, I made fortunes and suddenly the animation industry was mine until they got mad at me. So what I'm saying is it's important for animators to be very well-rounded. Get the hell away from Disney and Warner Brothers and all that garbage. It's what was done, it's there, it's a bunch of geniuses did it. What's it got to do with your lives today, or Barack Obama, or Katrina, or any of the things that's happened, or Iraq? What has any of that stuff got to do with what's going on today? So I'm a great believer of doing who you are. You have to know what's going on, but I wouldn't idolize it to the extent where it stops you from growing, which is what all the people do. They become fans. I have never seen so many great animators who go nowhere because they're fans. I mean, why would Frisk the Cat, Heavy Traffic, Coonskin, American Pop still not be copied or made? Why are these guys still redoing it? You know, why is redoing virtually the same stuff they've always done, except for a couple of exceptions. Except for some short films and short guys. I'm saying you're younger guys who are breaking out, don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about major feature film work, stuff that's come up on the screen. The best film I've seen to date was The Bellevilles or something. Beautiful, brilliant movie. Brilliant movie. Like nothing I've seen, amazing, wonderful, original, and in the ballpark for commercialities. That's a brilliant film. I can't say that as a Shrek movie because I think they're garbage. I really do. It's absolute garbage. You know, Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, Shrek, come on, give me a break. You know, there's an Iraq war on. Why can't I see an Iraq war film in animation? There's all kinds of stuff happening, you know, so I don't buy what these guys do, and that's why I keep coming to schools to talk, because no one else is here to talk, there's no one else doing anything, so I keep showing up, like an old man, you know. I'm kind of all my films have sold out. After 30 years, I got 30-year-old films still selling out. Yeah, I thought I'd failed when I left Hollywood. These films that I was beat up on, sued on, yelled at, theaters were burned down, got my mother thrown out of a neighborhood, and all the problems that I had making those films, and the threats and the calls at night, and we're gonna kill you and all that, are still being screened. People are still liking them. And you pay a price for that. I left the business pretty shocked. And I thought that I completely fell on my face, but I'm stunned at that these films are still playing and people still want me to talk at these schools. So what you should look at is yourself. But yourself has to get educated. Yourself has to find stuff you like. You've got to go to New York City. You've got to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You've got to go to a jazz club. You've got to find the girl that yells at you and breaks your heart. I mean, you need those things. You need those things to grow. You know, you need experiences. What you don't need is Disney. What you don't need is Warner Brothers. You need to live a life. You know, that's what an artist should be. That's what animators should be. And if you don't make a lot of money, you're still doing your art. You say, I believe animation is an art form. Let me tell you where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the basic form. It's an art form. It's your personal art. You better take care of it. You know, animation's been very good to me. I'm 70 years old, and I still love it. And I still, you know, and it's an art form of mine. I still talk about it. I'm not coming from it. I don't sell shoes. I don't merchandise dolls. We didn't do very well in that area. But it's an art form, and if that's your art form, we better take care of it. It's more important than money. In the end result, look at Katzenberg. Katzenberg, this guy who runs DreamWorks, gave all his money to this guy, Madoff, who lost it. He calls my daughter-in-law works as a producer there. He calls everybody and says, I lost all my money. Well, you know, that's his fault. Can I tell you why that's his fault? Here takes a man with $200 million, $250 million, you know, who still wants to make 10 or 20% on his money. He's got more money than he's ever going to spend in his entire life. He's got $250 million, and he's got to turn it over to this crook, which he doesn't know is a crook, to make more money. Because he wants more. If he'd put it away at 3%, he'd have been fine, he would have had his money, and he still wouldn't have been able to spend it. So greed is what runs through a lot of filmmakers. What happens is they get to Hollywood, they want to make the big money, and they start selling out, and they start doing all the crap. They start doing Shrek 3 and Shrek 3, and then they end up with 40 and 50 empty men. They may have money or not, but they've sold out. And that's the worst thing an artist could do is sell. They'll catch up to you. You may get away for it in the beginning. I'd rather be starving at 60, but having done everything I want with the pain and the anguish. You'll feel good about yourself and you'll keep going. I know guys at 50, 55, 60 who are in bars who never achieved what they thought they wanted to do because they said yeah too many times to the Who's. You know, the Katzenbergs, all they want to do is make money. But imagine making Shrek 3. I mean, come on. There's nothing else to make. You do that picture 3 times. They're going to do it 4 times and 5 times. For what? So what I'm saying is, do I answer that question? Be yourselves, and if you're somebody, you'll be fine. If you're nobody, you should be in the business. Next question.
I was going to say the addendum to that. I have a question that probably you know these people, that they're perfectly happy not to lead the way. They're perfectly happy just to let someone else lead the way and just to do their animation, or, you know, and they're very, like you said, probably genius level at what they do, but they don't feel like having a voice. They don't feel like being a leader, and sometimes it's up to one of us to sort of get that group of 5 together.
No question about it. It takes a guy with a mouth and an ego and a desire to do it. Oh, there's no question about it. Oh, there's no. That's always the case. When the case is someone's got to pull these people together. I mean, I'm not putting down a guy who just wants to be a great animator. My job is to give him something great to animate. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the art of animation is spectacular. You know, I think it's a great art form. If you just want to sit there and move stuff around, there's nothing better. You know, but try to find something to move that's meaningful. You know what I'm saying? That's what my point is. Just moving stuff that's not meaningful eventually gets very dry and dull and dangerous for you. In other words, I remember, like, an example, when I came into, we're doing a picture called Hagen Looking Up. I'm in Hollywood, and there are all California animators who never lived in New York. And I'm doing this picture about a gang, Brooklyn gangs, a black gang from Brooklyn. And this guy, his head guy, Vinny, is combing his hair. And I give this to an animator to comb this guy's hair, and he's combing his hair, you know. So, whoa. I said, cool guys in New York don't comb their hair that way. You're combing this guy's hair like he's Bugs Bunny. So I'm saying is, if you don't work on enough decent projects, you don't get to grow as to how a Vinny would comb his hair if he's from the 50s in New York, as opposed to a Bugs Bunny who's always eating carrots. That's fun for a while. If you keep doing Shrek, right, you're just going to move them in those stupid cliches because there's nothing really new about what they're asking you to do. But if guys pull guys together, now you want to do a bunch of guys in Vietnam, one's black, one's Korean, but they got to move differently. You know, a black guy's got to move differently than a white guy. First, the cat had to move differently than the crow. Those are the things that, by changing the subject matter, animators have challenges. The old Disney guys had challenges. They were creating the art of animation from nothing. So that was the challenge. Eventually the challenge ended, and they were just repeating themselves. Because there was nothing else to, if Disney changed subject matter, here's a studio going through World War II, Auschwitz, guys dying at Normandy, and what are they doing? Peter Pan. That's bullshit. And that's the problem. In other words, that's the problem, that unless you're part of your time, what are you doing? So animation is part of their time. One of the things that I did was, I was part of my time. First was part of his time, Kuzka was part of his time, Pop was all the times, the time I grew up in, my father's time, and then the time I was living in. I did Heavy Traffic, was about my boyhood in Brooklyn. See, my animation was about what I knew. you know, and what I cared about and what I loved, jazz. I put Billie Holiday in a movie, you know, I put Maybelline, I put rock and roll records in my movies. I was the first guy to do it. I couldn't believe it, these guys weren't using the tracks. I paid $50 for Billie Holiday. Today you can buy that for $500,000. I got the music so cheap because nobody was using it. This is the music I grew up with. So, what am I saying? I knew about Billie Holiday. I loved her, so I wanted to use Billie Holiday. So nobody was doing that. I was the first guy to put Maybelline rock and roll in a picture. It's nuts. I mean, it's nuts. You know, so these are the things that came out of my love, not because I wanted to be sharp or hip. I wanted to get stuff that I loved on the screen before I could die, you know. So these things work out if you love stuff, is what I found. And you got to be tough. Look, I fought these guys. You know, there were a lot of battles I won, and a lot of battles I lost, but they eventually got me. I left the business crazy. I did. It was hard. I was shaking. Took too much time.
How'd the project with Rosetta come about? Very nice.
Well, Frank's a friend of mine. Frank's a painter. Frank wanted to get out of the house painting. I was through with the business. And I thought I'd do a picture with him where he would do all the work. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to work with him and let him go and get out of the house with Ellie and, you know, and have fun in the studio. And so I really did it, and I wanted one more big fee. And then they paid me a lot of money, and Frank allowed me to do the film on me, Frank. I was leaving. I was burnt. They had killed Cut Coonskin. They had cut Hated looking up. There were too many fights. And, you know, it was, so I saw the picture with Frank. It was easy, and he came, and the guys in the studio died. I mean, I forgot all. Frank is that works in the studio, and all my animators froze. They couldn't draw. They couldn't. He came over the desk, and they started to shake. You know. So my problem was he was such a great artist that when he went over to talk to the guys, they nearly fainted because they couldn't draw in front of Rosetta. They'd have to show them the drawing. They would do that, and you know. So that was very hard. You know, it really was. Frank would bring his paintings in to give lectures. And the guys eventually got used to it. They found out it was just an Italian, but who happens to be able to draw well. But that's why I did Fire and Ice. I personally, you know, that wasn't a picture that I wanted. That I personally, that's Frank's picture as far as subject matter. And two comic book artists wrote it, and it doesn't matter. You know, it wasn't anything that. But the guys enjoyed working with Frank. I think that was, you know, and Frank loved it. He got very sick on the picture, by the way, his first stroke. He's had about 8 or 10 strokes to date. I talked to him last week. He's learned to draw with his left hand. He was a righty. He lost use of his right hand. And he's now totally learned to repaint and redraw with his left hand. And he says as good as ever. That's Frank, I believe him. If he says as good as ever, it's good as ever. That's Frank. His wife's dying of cancer.